So I've been called many things in my life. When I was younger, my family called me Taz. In my school years, my teachers called me a social butterfly. And when I got a job in a Chilean kitchen, they called me loca, which is Spanish for crazy. I've been described as a firecracker, a lightning bolt, someone who can't stand still, someone who just won't shut up. People have suggested on more than one occasion that I might have ADHD. I don't. These names were given to me because of my high energy, my outgoingness, and my positive perspective. But they were never the same names I called myself. Failure, disgusting, pathetic, not enough. Before long, I gave in to those thoughts, and it became obvious to my parents that something was wrong. At the age of 17, I was misdiagnosed with depression and general anxiety disorder. Every day, I would bring different medications to settle my stomach, just enough to eat lunch at school. There would be bad days where I simply wouldn't get out of bed and I would sleep all day. More often than not, I couldn't attend a full day of school, and I would just go home and sleep. I was 22 and a university student when I hit my lowest point. I gave in to the voices, I called myself. I deprived myself of food and forced myself to sleep all day. I tortured myself for a 3-month period. I became so weak that I would faint and wake up on the floor more times than I'd like to admit. Some of these times I've hit my head or chest when I lost consciousness, which resulted in bruises or trouble breathing. It felt like I was trapped in a container. I was watching the lid close and there was nothing I could do to get out, and I couldn't breathe. In those months, I lost 30 pounds. I remember looking down at my legs and thinking that they didn't look like mine anymore. Mental illness dictated every aspect of my life. My relationships, my university career, my dignity, and now my body. This is when I realized that something was very wrong and that I couldn't handle it alone and I needed help. I don't know how to explain it, but even though I was putting myself through hell, I still had fight in me. I wanted more than the illness was allowing me to live. This year I celebrated my 5-year anniversary where I reached out and got help. I was able to find a doctor who listened, and along with that came a diagnosis of bipolar 1. I accept the strong emotions that come with this illness and give myself the time and space to process them. Recovery is not perfect. There were many times where I thought I had my legs only to have them swept from under me. A common misconception is that along with a diagnosis comes a cure. There certainly is no perfect cure or treatment for bipolar. Approximately 60% of people who suffer from bipolar are misdiagnosed, often with depression, anxiety, or even ADHD. In June 2016, my family received the devastating blow that my Aunt Denise had ended her life. Despite having fought for 4 years, her illness became more than she could bear. Her death presented another reality of mental illness that I didn't think would ever affect my family. I took her death personally because we had a similar diagnosis. In a way, I felt like we were in a fight together, and all of a sudden she was gone, and I was alone again. Last July, my family took another devastating blow. My brother Daniel also took his life. Dan had the loudest laugh you've ever heard, the best karaoke voice you could ever imagine. I love how much he reminded me of our father. I miss his hugs. I find new ways to miss my brother every day. My family watched as mental illness stripped him of his pride, his laugh, his voice, and then his life. He too shared a similar diagnosis as mine, and again I felt like I was fighting alone. Never in a million years did I think that this would ever happen to my family, to have lost my aunt and my brother and have them taken from us by mental illness. Despite being able to advocate for myself and work towards achieving mental wellness, I watched as my aunt and my brother tried to navigate through a patchwork system which resulted in neither of their cases being addressed as promptly or as severely as they should have. If actions speak louder than words, then Denise and Daniel's deaths should speak volumes to the suffering they underwent. People have described their lowest points in so many ways. My brother Daniel described his as feeling though he was trapped in a box and he could feel it getting smaller every day. Others say it's like being trapped in a cave or even a well. Whatever the description, the feeling is the same. It is inescapable, it is frustrating, and it is hopeless. With everything that was taken from my family, I find it unacceptable that people continue to suffer and other families continue to lose loved ones to mental illness. It is estimated that 11 Canadians die by suicide every day. 9 of these are people with mental illness. These are our brothers, our sisters, our mothers, our fathers, our sons, our daughters, our cousins, our neighbors, and our co-workers. We can't stand by complacently and continue to watch as they suffer. Since Daniel's death, I have become a mental health advocate, speaking at colleges and community events that are geared towards eliminating the stigma associated with mental health. Through this work, I encourage people who suffer to get help and provide them with resources within their community. I've come to learn that the words, "you're not alone," can truly be impactful, especially when that's all you feel is alone. The biggest issue that there is that there's no real conversations being had about suicide because of the stigma associated with it. My mother confessed to me that it is hard being open about the way Denise and Daniel died for fear that people assume that we didn't do enough to help them. In reality, that couldn't be more far from the truth. We did everything in our power to help them out, but it wasn't enough. The reason is that there aren't enough crisis support programs. There's not enough social supports for families. There's not enough holistic mental health care programs or agencies or supportive housing programs. There aren't enough social workers and public education programs, and there simply isn't funding. If after hearing this you feel sympathy for me and my family, then I ask you instead to be empathetic. Sympathy is short and bittersweet and ends with just a few tears. Empathy, however, is empowering and enables you to see the powerful love that we have for Denise and Daniel. That love has led us to make a meaningful impact in the mental health community. With an empathetic heart, you can understand the importance of my Aunt Denise's and Daniel's stories and those of who have passed from suicide to continue. Not to be dictated by how they died, but how they lived. While my brother was being treated at a mental health facility, he realized that many of his fellow patients did not have a home to go to after their stay. It was his wish to provide them with housing outside of treatment. When the Mindful members contacted True Experience, we had no clue that they were looking to expand their program and to purchase a new group home. Today, the Mindful Gala members and I are proud to be making a donation to this amazing organization to help make Dan's dream a reality. My heart is filled with an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the amount of love and support that has been shown to me and my family. Thank you for joining us today to celebrate the lives of Denise, Daniel, and the thousands of people affected by suicide. May they never be forgotten in our memories, in our hearts, and may they be remembered for how they lived. Thank you.